want to sync?
Sure.
Welcome. It's story time with Adam and Caleb. First, this episode, The Fifth Element, Luc Besson's Fifth Element. First thoughts?
Everyone fucking knows Fifth Element.
Not everyone.
Anyone over the age of like 30 knows Fifth Element.
No, not everyone. Because it's like, I don't think it's like the people who weren't fans of Star Wars were fans of Fifth Element. Make sense? That's how I took it, because it came out in the 90s. So I'm thinking about the second Star Wars movie that came out.
Mm.
The first, second, and third, technically. So yeah, I was just thinking that they came out during the same time period. I'm like, it was probably split either between the Fifth Element fans and Star Wars fans.
I don't know. Anytime I bring up the Fifth Element around like an adult, they're like, "Oh, I love that movie."
Sorry, what?
I remember my parents used to put Fifth Element on just like in the background for...
Just to have it playing there.
Yeah, the amount of times I've watched Fifth Element is ridiculous compared to like the rest of the movies I've watched. Because I think I've watched Star Wars like twice, just because it was playing. I've watched more Star Trek movies, or I've watched like 2 Star Trek movies, and then just classics like Forrest Gump and shit like that I didn't watch until like I was 15, and someone's like, "You gotta watch it."
So what I was gonna say is that if you remember, Luc Besson made Leon the Professional. You remember that? And what I was gonna say is that if you remember in Leon the Professional, right? Mm. So I haven't watched all his movies, but just from these 2 movies, I think these are how he tells his movies. Usually he sets up the character, he sets up the scenario. Does it make sense? And then he pushes the 2 characters, the 2 love interests together, and then it's always the lead character having to like make that life decision. Make sense? It's that one decision that pushes. Make sense? So, for example, what's her name's family just got killed in Leon the Professional, right? Her whole family, and she goes over and she's crying, and she's like, "Please open the door, please." Remember? And he's just like, he knows that he doesn't want to give it away. You know what I mean? And so he's hesitant to let this girl in because he doesn't know what she's doing, whatever, right? And then he's thinking, and it's always that moment of like, okay, fine, I guess I'll take her in. Make sense? For the other one, it was, she's in the taxi. Remember? She broke into the roof, and she's sitting there, and the cops are about to get her, and he's like, "Nope, you gotta go. And then the camera's kind of pushing in towards him, and then he's kind of like, "Okay, fine," and he starts the car and he drives away. Mm. You know what I mean? So it's similar to Leon the Professional, of like, okay, like, I'm gonna make the decision, and that's the thing that pushes the story forward.
Hmm. So I don't really know why people are so like into Fifth Element.
Well, I think this is the interesting thing about Fifth Element compared to like Star Wars, is that Star Wars was like just kind of space battles and lightsaber battles, and there's fighting and stuff like that, and there's action. Does it make sense? Well, the Fifth Element actually has plot, and it's kind of weak because it's like he gets the stones, and it's like, oh, they're not here. He gets the stones, oh, they're not here. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, it turns out it's in the body that he happens to be protecting, or he happens to be helping. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It's a bunch of cheap ways. What I'm trying to say is that maybe the story is why people like it better compared to Star Wars or something. But I'm saying the story's kind of weak.
Yeah. It's more like an action movie than anything. It's almost like a spy movie, but there's no spies.
I don't think it's very actiony. Do you?
Like, the whole end is just basically a shootout after shootout after shootout.
Well, that's the end. If we're comparing it to Star Wars, it's like from beginning to end, there's shootouts and there's fighting and stuff like that.
Well, for like, in the vein of like a spy movie, they start out, he does something illegal and then just like...
It does kind of translate. Sorry, keep going, yeah.
He just like fucks off the police and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then you find out that he's like an ex-military guy.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was cheap.
And then I forget, he finds out what the significance of it, and then he does some like... It's not quite spy shit, but it's almost like...
Okay, well...
Because the government, like, just gives him the ticket because they like, basically take the ticket and give it to him.
Wait, is that what they did? I thought he legitimately won.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, he legitimately won, and then the
then
government
also, they said, hey, you have to go there anyway because we want you to do a mission.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened was the girl took the ticket and then played as his wife, and then, remember, she sneaks on the cruise ship with her?
Yeah.
And remember everyone saying, oh, I'm what's it called, Dallas, and they're like, Dallas already checked in, and yeah, everyone's trying to impersonate him.
Yeah, and then there's the secret weapon in the background, like those guns, and then they unveil it at the end.
What I was gonna say is, Chris Tucker, the black guy, I would make a character like him. Like, if I were gonna put a character in because it's okay, so... The thing I like about Carrie is because that's the proper way to do a psychological horror, is to explore certain subjects. Make sense?
Mm.
I think the best way to do a science fiction movie is to explore certain subjects, which he did, but I also think he just wanted to make his own science fiction epic. Does it make sense?
Mm.
So it's like, I think he didn't, that's why that was kind of my thing against it. And what'd you say right before this?
Mm.
You said something right before I started talking about this.
The spy thing? Oh, it's almost like a spy.
No, after that.
The secret weapon that they unveil at the end.
I don't even know what I was saying. What do you have to say?
Are they still out there?
The doors. They might be in the backyard. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, that's what I was gonna mention. This is exactly what I want to explain to you. So remember in 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? The bone throws up, it spins, and then as it falls, it cuts to the spaceship, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's the proper way. Usually, like, because it's basically something the same shape as this, you know what I mean? And then you cut to it, you know what I mean? And it's, I forgot, there's symbolism. Oh, there's another family over there. There's symbolism in it, but there's what I'm trying to say is there's a proper way to use it, and the proper way is in 2001: Space Odyssey. He showed that the bone, which is a tool, is the thing that progressed to the space station, and he did that in a single cut. Makes sense? In this exact same 2001, or not 2001, in Fifth Element, right? It's another space-time epic, right? It takes place over 300 years, just like the other one, right? But this time, they have a cut just like that. And you remember when the ball of the energy, the evil energy, you know what I mean? And then it was a ball of the energy, and there's the planes, right? And then it cuts to a window, and it's the circle. Does it make sense? Do you remember that scene? It just, and then it's already in the later hour of the film when they're in the whole space cruise. Does it make sense? So it's on that ship. But what I'm saying is that one of the outside windows is a circle, and then it cut from the planetary evil energy, and it cut to that circle. Just because it was an interesting transition. Does it make sense? That's the improper way to do that. I think I looked at that and I'm like, wow, like that was just like you did it because it was interesting, I guess. But like that was I didn't think that much of it. And then when I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, I'm like, wow, that was brilliant. What I'm trying to say, there's certain directors who understand like what they're doing. I think he's just kind of good at writing stories. I don't think he knows anything about like cinema. Makes sense?
Yeah. I think it's kind of cheap that they killed off that character that had the stone in her stomach.
Why?
Because that just means that he doesn't have to deal with that sort of circumstance, I guess.
What do you mean?
Like, if she was alive, how the fuck would he get the stone out of her? They'd have to, like, literally cut her open and get...
Oh, well, I think she was going to sacrifice herself anyway. Because remember she said after her song, she would give it to Lilu? Speaking of that, how do you feel about Lilu? Do you think she's attractive?
She's alright.
It's interesting because just like, what's it called?
Leia?
No, Leon the Professional, yeah. Where I said that I think it's coming from his life, in which I'm pretty sure he wrote it because he was dating an underage girl at the time. But Lilo is sort of like an underage girl. And she's this very innocent girl, right? And this big booty man has to come and love her, right? And she's not an alien from the planet. Yeah. And she's an alien from the planet and stuff like that. I don't know. I just saw similarities between Leo the Professional girl and her. Yeah. What does that mean? I don't want them to come home with that. The weed. Just because I'm what were we talking about? The Fifth Element?
Yeah.
What else do you have to say about it?
Yeah, her being a child.
No, I just mentioned that. I just saw the similarities between Leo the Professional character girl. Does that make sense? A little girl and Lulu.
Yeah.
She can play this innocent girl because she tries to be tough, but you realize, oh, she's not that tough.
At the end, she fucking...
Yeah, she kicks ass once and then she gets shot.
Yeah, and while she's shot, she fucking... Doesn't she kill someone and, like, save the day?
No, she got shot in the ceiling, and the rest of it is what's his name carrying the girl.
Huh.
Right? Unless she fought before that. Remember, the only time she fought was to get the things in the room. Remember?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. And, yes, she fights him, and then she jumps into the air duct, and then the guy comes and shoots her. And then she's left up there. Makes sense, and what's his name comes over and he gets her.
Yeah.
I dare you to drink it. I see the straws right there. Go. You don't think you could just swallow it? You don't think you could just swallow it?
Just the thought of it would make me gag it up.
God, they're leaving. No, the mom's right there in front of the car. In front of your car. What?
Let's see. So who's the guy that, the effeminate one in the plane?
Chris Tucker?
Yeah.
You ever been?
People talk about him a lot when they go to do the Fifth Element, like he's someone else, I think.
What do you mean?
Someone like Like a different. He's famous in a different actor or movie or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
he's famous for a lot of movies.
What movies are he in?
Rush Hour. 1, 2, 3. He was in Friday.
Friday. Which one's that?
With Ice Cube. Damn. Remember? They're on the porch.
I haven't watched that one.
Have you seen that meme?
I think so.
Yeah, that's Chris Tucker and Ice Cube.
I can
Oh, sorry.
remember Ice Cube's face, but I can't remember.
Well, yeah, I love that character. Because you understand, during that whole shootout scene where the whole opera scene, all that, he's having a live TV show broadcast. So that's why he's like, ladies and gentlemen, that's why, you know what I mean? That's why he's doing it. And by the end, he's like, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the broadcast. This is one of the greatest shows I've ever given. I'm signing off. Think, and then he like turns it off. And I'm like, I just like the idea is that whole time he was commentating. He's like, ah! So he has some type of story arc. That's why I like that. And he's so fucking... Because it's like, he's feminine, right? Or effeminate. But technically, he's just sleeping with all these women. Yeah. And he's like... That's why it's like so funny. And his hair. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah, I really want to make a character like that. And I would want it in like just a normal like noir film or something. Not a noir, like a crime film or something. Just an outlandish character like that.
I like the idea of having everyone just be these sort of gruff stoics, and then just one character is that guy.
Yeah. That'd be interesting for a bad guy. Who's this like effeminate, what do you call it? He's very animated, you know what I mean? And then like all his security are like big brutes, you know what I mean?
All his security?
Yeah. 'Cause he's like a bad guy.
Oh. I thought you were saying like everyone's a gruff stoic and then he's the bad guy and he's the effeminate one.
Oh no. What else do you think about the film?
I like that they didn't try to copy like a Star Wars-esque sci-fi-ish, or it's like theme to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it had its own view of the future.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of Ghost in the Shell, actually.
Yeah, I've never watched it, the animated one.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say was, I mentioned this in Leon the Professional, Jesus. Is that he wrote this when he was 17. And he didn't film it until 10 years later. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I think he started it when he was even younger. And then he wrote it for a couple of years. I want to make a sci-fi epic. What could you do? I don't know.
Let's do White Dwarf.
White Dwarf?
Yeah, that's the one where all the suns are gone.
Oh, yeah. And that's where the universe takes place.
Yeah.
But the way I would do it, I don't think it'd be interesting. So I kind of thought of that because we've talked about it before. And I've thought about that. And I thought the way I see it is that, you remember in 2001 A Space Odyssey? When they're sitting in like the red tape chairs and in the background, you just see the earth spinning? Do you remember that? In the window, you just see Earth's in the background.
I think so.
So I imagine like that's how the majority of the film is. It's like these people in this spaceship, right? And they're circling this star, right? That you see in the background from 90% of the film, and it's just this drama going on. I don't think it would be this cool, interesting epic, sort of like The Fifth Element or 2001.
Mm.
I just think it would be kind of this drama that would take place on a ship. So I don't know if I would do a good one.
Well, there's stuff like think it's called Passengers. The one with the
Oh yeah.
Jennifer, Jennifer Lawrence and
Yeah.
Chris
Chris
Pratt.
Pratt. Yeah. Yeah, you could. But I didn't like that because that doesn't seem very interesting. It's just like, oh, it's in the future. I don't want cool things.
Well, it's a very like that sort of plot couldn't really take place in any other kind of context.
Well, it kind of, it can. It's basically, it's like impending doom. You know what I mean? That's basically the context it's in. It's like, that's how I would write it in. It's like, oh no, our star's dying out, what are we gonna do? You know what I mean?
I'm talking about Passengers.
Oh, okay.
Because Passengers was just... It's very much based on the concept that if everyone's in cryosleep and you wake up and you don't know how to go back into cryosleep, you'll die alone on the ship.
Yeah.
From old age.
Yeah.
So I can't really think of a good context for that kind of, I guess, feeling.
Yeah.
And they add to it by having him wake up another person. Like, holy shit.
They make it worse.
I was watching a video essay about it, and some guy was saying, like, they sort of show it as this love story, but it would have been much better as...
Oh, I think I saw that.
Yeah, it was... I don't know the term for it, but, like, if you frame it so that you start with her waking up, and then you find out through the or by the end of the movie that...
He woke her up?
Yeah, he woke her up. It becomes more of...
What they're going for?
Like he looks more like a psycho when you do that. So it becomes more of like a horror, I guess. Like low horror.
Yeah, and this kind of goes on to a whole nother topic, but that's the absolute basis of cinema, is the edit, is how you arrange stuff. Does it make sense? And how they take the information in sequence and how you place the sequences. So it's like, literally, it's like, if they had a better editor who just looked at all the footage and they're like, yeah, this is an interesting love movie, but what if we edit it this way? Like, well, look at how interesting it becomes. Look at all this, you know what I mean?
Mm.
That's why I had a shitty editor.
Have you ever, I guess, seen a movie that you thought could have been edited in a better way? Like that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, we talked about Hateful Eight. That's like an easy one, but like that could have been edited better. And that's like story-wise.
I mean, would that change the story as much as it would in Passengers?
Oh, no, but I was answering your question. I'm trying to think. To make the story better? No, I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Do you know if Bubba Shrimp was a company before Forrest Gump?
No, I don't think so. Why?
Because I've always kind of wondered.
What are your plans for today?
I'm probably going to set up my computer and get on and do some stuff for the Minecraft server.
Why do you have to set up your computer?
They moved me from Nolan's room to the guest room while I was at work, so they just put my computer on the table.
Yeah. Say something. You don't have anything else to say?
I liked that, I can't remember exactly. Do you remember when they were checking in, and then the back wall, is that garbage or luggage?
Trash, yeah.
Okay. That would have been so much better if it was just luggage.
Why?
Just the idea that everyone just piles on their luggage and then they just sort of suck it up or something like that into the plane.
Yeah. That would be funny.
So why was there garbage there?
No, I don't know. And they just hid inside. That's what I didn't understand either. is that the aliens, their plan B, because they tried to impersonate the Lilo and the other guy. Does it make sense to get on the plane tickets for free? And then they found out they're aliens. Remember, they scanned them, and then they ducked into the trash, and we didn't see them for the rest of the movie. So it's like, what was the point of just showing them doing that? For the comedic effect, I guess.
I remember thinking about that. It's kind of just a plot hole, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, oh yeah, same thing with the other guy. The black guy comes in, tries to impersonate the other guy to get on the plane, and he says, "Do we already have him checked in?" And then he started getting sweaty, and then he's like, "Oh, we're closing the gates, bye," and she goes down. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Security showed up, didn't they?
No, I don't think so. I think he just left.
Hmm.
It came for the other ones, though. Anyways, have you been writing your story?
Nah, I haven't had time.
Have you been thinking about it?
I've been trying to.
What have you thought about?
Just how I want to progress. It's basically at the point where I just need to write it out.
Then do it. You know what I like doing? It's so annoying to, like, finish. Does it make sense? But I like finishing and seeing it completed, and then I like revising it. Does that make sense?
Mm.
I hate writing it out, and I hate, am I done yet? Am I done yet? Does it make sense? And then when I'm finished, I'm like, oh shit, I have 50 pages, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And then I'm like, okay, well, at least I have 50 pages now. I don't need to put that much work to make it better. Does it make sense? Like, I've done all the hard work.
So just like a first draft kind of thing?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. You should just write your first draft. And then once it's in front of you, maybe it'll become easier to work on. To add, to erase.
Yeah. I followed like a writing tips hashtag, and a lot of them talk about how just write it out, like get drunk or something like that, and just write it out, and then go back later and just make it actually legible while you're sober.
Yeah.
Because if you're, it's not necessarily drunk, but it's always some kind of like fuck over your mind for a couple hours kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of them was saying like, write when you're like just absolutely super tired, because you just don't give a fuck and you just write down everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard that. What was I gonna say? It was about that. I forgot. Oh, you can smoke? I forgot. What was I gonna say? It's about writing. I don't know. So because I got all my people for my film, I've been just planning, and it's alright, but that's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm just planning, scheduling, just seeing how I'm gonna do things. And I've just secured the equipment. So it's like, before I thought I had access to the equipment, now I know I have access to the equipment. Makes sense? So that's cool. I have all my actors. It seems like next week, I'm hoping I meet with a couple of people, and then I'm like, okay guys, let's start. Oh, and then we're gonna have one big meeting to go over the script, and then I was hoping to have one kind of like everyone just meets. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, let's go to a bar or something.
I don't know. Do the Japanese way of employment.
What's the Japanese way?
Anytime they hire someone new, they all go out and just get shit faced together.
Really?
Yeah, to build a sort of
Trust.
trust and camaraderie.
That's interesting. Would you be down to go?
Hmm?
Would you be down to go?
Where?
wherever I invite them.
Oh, sure.
I'll be like, I didn't do any of this. He wrote it all. And they're like, you're a genius.
Ain't that fat June?
Oh, where's it?
It's right here.
Oh, go ahead. There's nothing left. And the tobacco conch isn't that good. You want to do some fat O's? So, I was mentioning in the other podcast about a story that I want to write. Because I'm thinking about my next movie. And I want to make something that is way more entertainment. I want to do a genre film. And it's pure entertainment, but there has to be something different. I might want to do the zombie apocalypse movie because it's starting to sort of formulate in my head. I have the idea of like within the first 20 minutes, right? It's just them walking and them, or no, within the first like 5-10 minutes, it's just them walking and talking, right? I don't know what they're talking about, but then they run into their first person, right? And I want to show like the whole friendly, are you friendly? Does it make sense? I want to do that, and then they rob them, and that's kind of the end of the interaction. And I just want to show like in the zombie apocalypse, everyone's not going to be shooting each other, and then like he's going to be like, I like the idea of like our character, our lead, and his friend noticed the people first. They split off. They all left, but they split off.
Mom was still there.
Door's not open. So they split off, and then they like go into the bushes, you know what I mean? And then they have like walkie-talkies. I don't know, maybe they'll have walkie-talkies. And they're like talking to each other, like, oh, it's just like, oh, he's 50 meters out or something. Or not 50 meters, you know what I mean? It's something. And they're talking, and then they're like, oh, they don't have guns or whatever. They're like, okay, fine, let me confront them, you know what I mean? And then we watch our character go in and confront them. And they're like, oh, get down. It's like, and then we tie their hands up and stuff like that. And I'm just trying to show that, like, in a zombie apocalypse environment, you wouldn't all be killing each other. And then I want, after that interaction, I want them walking or something, right? And then at some point in the film is that when that whole sniper scene happens. And that's kind of the majority of the film. And then they come back and they kind of recover. That's the idea I have for it so far.
I was thinking about, in Daisy, can you imagine if Green Mountain broadcasted to every radio?
They made one. They have like these big ones that you put on your back, and you have to have a battery. It doesn't broadcast to all the radios, but if you broadcast on a channel, does it make sense? They can all get on the channel. And I think you can have radios and stuff like that you can put down, and you can put it to a certain channel.
Like, I was thinking like an actual like radio station.
Yeah.
Like Green Mountain is 56.3 or something like that, and you tune in, and whoever's there can just broadcast whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
So you could literally have a community based around like a radio station. And if you don't like who's on the radio, you can literally just go fucking raid them and kill them.
So yeah, I'm trying to think of a movie. Anyways, I'm just trying to think of a movie that's entertaining. That's a genre film that I could advertise it as a genre, like, oh, this is a zombie apocalypse film, but it has nothing to do with the zombie apocalypse. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to think of a film like that. If I were to do it, I think I can do my crime film, where there's the two brothers or the two friends who come from nothing and become something.
Oof, it's out.
We're 30 minutes in. What was I gonna say? Yeah, help me. What would be an interesting genre film? A superhero film? But what could I do differently? You don't know? Because, like, the only way to do a superhero film differently, I would think, is, that one guy, Kick-Ass. You know what I mean? That's, like, the only other way you could really do a superhero film.
I think Logan's a good departure from it, I guess.
But I guess it's just kind of drama, but with superheroes. I'm trying to say, like, what is a distinctly different way of approaching the superhero genre? That might be interesting, and that's why I mentioned Kick-Ass. It's like Logan is like, yeah, I guess it's different, but it's Wolverine in a drama. You know what I mean?
You can go for, I guess, a more chaotic look at it. Because in a lot of these movies, it's just like one day, or a lot of these universes, it's just like some people have powers and they just emerge at some point. And I think it could easily be taken in a very chaotic way where society is just trying to deal with all this shit that's going on.
Oh yeah, I think we talked about this. But how would you tell an interesting story that way? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, but what else? What other genre films would be interesting?
You could do a Western that's based on, like, real.
What do you mean?
Because a cowboy was...
Well, hold on, let me say this. There's no way to do another... one, there's no way to do a different Western, because, like, all the Westerns have already been made, pretty much, I think. And then two, what?
They're based off that sort of blueprint that we have for cowboy movies.
Yeah.
And cowboy movies are nowhere near...
real life.
Yeah. So if you went with a more realistic...
But then I just think of, like, Brokeback Mountain. You know what I mean? Or, like, a boring Western. Or, I don't know, what kind of Western would there... Because then I think of, like, There Will Be Blood. You know what I mean? That wasn't a Western, but...
Yeah. I mean, you could do it about, like, just them fucking up Indians, I guess.
Okay, fine. I have this crime film that I've always wanted to write. And I've told you about it. It's the two guys, they're working at a fast food. They have nothing going in their life, right? It's like they share a room like we did at grandma's house, you know what I mean? And they're scums of the earth, right? And they decide, one of them, after watching a bunch of movies like Pulp Fiction and Taxi Driver, you know what I mean? They decide, let's try to become hitman. Does it make sense? And then they become hitman. And as they diverge into their hitman career, one diverts into a more professional hitman while the other one diverts to a more psychopath.
Yeah.
So that's the idea.
I remember it.
Yeah, so what would be... That's just the idea. What are some arcs that could happen? What would be interesting? That would be different than another crime film, another... It doesn't taste horrible. You're like, that ain't water.
Tastes like it's been in the sun too long.
The plastic?
Yeah.
That's gross.
So... I don't know, you can diverge into more worldly, I guess, shit, like why bother having morals when you're a hired killer kind of thing.
No, okay. My specific question is story arcs. Like, what are interesting story arcs? I'm not talking about topics. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I'm just thinking about, you're like, oh, what if they try to rob a store and it didn't work, and then they try to... I'm just trying to think of an interesting, different crime movie. Does that make sense? And then something I would be able to film.
Have their first kill just go fucking horribly.
Well, that's what I thought. I knew the first time wasn't going to be good and something was going to happen. But you want it to go bad?
Well, not necessarily bad, but messy, I guess.
Well,
like they try to kill, or they like try to choke him out, and then he basically just passes out after a couple seconds, and they think he's dead, and then he wakes up like, I don't know, a minute later or something like that. That kind of shit.
That's interesting because I want to, at some point in the film, I want to establish that they put ground rules on their work, and then we realize, okay, the friend breaks the ground rules. Make sense? Like, they're like, oh, we don't kill women and children. You know what I mean? And then he beats that rule, that first rule, within like the second assignment. You know what I mean? I want to do something like that. So it would be interesting. Like, they try to choke this guy out, and then it goes awry, right? And then they run home. They're like, hey, we gotta set up a plan. We can't let that happen again. Like, we have to set up a plan. Or we have to set up rules. And then they go over their rules. So that would be interesting, you know what I mean? So what, then they go over their rules, and then...
I'm trying to think of a way you could do the rules without it being cliche. Because immediately it just makes me think of, like, Zombieland.
But yeah, it's only going to be one scene, though.
The rule thing is in a lot of movies. It's like, alright, let's set some ground rules. No kids. Make sure they're dead.
But what I'm saying is that, how am I supposed to show that this guy is going off, you know, becoming a psychopath, unless I establish the rules first, no? Because really, what is the difference between a psychopath and a hitman?
Well, they feel no guilt, so they'll just do whatever.
Yeah, both of them.
Hitmen feel guilt. If a psychopath physically can't feel guilt, so that's what makes them so, I guess, ferocious.
Okay, but you still understand what I'm trying to say, is that I don't, what can I do to be like, okay, this guy's becoming a psychopath? Like, I thought if I set up rules, and then he starts to clearly violate the rules, you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, okay, this guy's clearly becoming a psychopath.
I mean, if you just show the difference between how they do stuff, you can sort of tell that the guy's going
Oh, well, I'm thinking,
psycho.
this whole time, I thought the story would be told by the guy who's professional. But what if it was like Taxi Driver? As in, the perspective of the film is from one person. Does that make sense? So it's like we're following this guy, and we slowly see him become psychopathic, but we think it's kind of this whole duo story. Does that make sense? And then it's kind of, then it becomes a character study of the psychopath. Does it make sense? Sort of. That's the idea I'm thinking of.
Yeah. That's an easy way to show. Yeah, that's a good way to show that he's devolving, I guess.
But,
'cause if
yeah.
he's doing if he's like narrating in any way, then you can.
Well, I'm thinking like Taxi
use that
Driver.
to
So think of a
justify-
Taxi Driver. You know how he would justify it in narration and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like he's staring at some guy on the ground, and he's like, "I could let him live, but there's no real reason for me to let him go. It's
Yeah.
just a risk," kind of thing.
Yeah. But I don't know, because then the story kind of changes. It changes from this kind of crime film to it would still be a crime film, but it's kind of like a psychological crime film or something. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that diverts from the original idea too much.
But still,
That's what I'm saying. It's still a crime film.
it still has the same kind of heart, I guess. It's about this guy, these two diverging partners. It's just that if you switch the perspective, it's a lot easier to, I guess, gradually show change instead of trying to establish something and evidently he breaks it, kind of thing.
Yeah. But which one's better? I think. Okay, well, I think we kind of know which one's better. But I'm saying, in the context of an entertaining story, because I think what I'm going for this one more is entertainment, and I don't think the whole
Entertainment is just like good fights, funny shit kind of stuff. So you can have that be.
I don't think so. I think people need more than that. I think people need like an interesting story, interesting characters, interesting scenario.
I don't know. I just watched Godzilla, and that shit was just.
Just pure visuals.
Yeah, it was just like. We let this thing go. Oh no, things break. Are you gonna watch it?
No.
They literally almost kill Godzilla with a oxygen bomb, and they do it by detonating it underwater. And the thing that the actual bad guy is like a 3-headed dragon, and that thing just fucking shrugs it off and flies into the air. But if it's an oxygen bomb, you would think it would like detonate, it would go off oxygen, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's no fucking oxygen underwater.
Okay.
So what the fuck exploded?
Okay, so what? There's just a big explosion?
Yeah, there was just an explosion under the water.
Well, I thought an oxygen bomb was like the atom bomb. Like the rest of atom bombs are hydrogen and like helium and stuff like that. So I thought they just use oxygen instead. Because the whole purpose of an atom bomb is that when it hits the surface, at some point the atoms will collide, and that's what makes the explosion. Make sense? So I thought that it could be any two atoms that collide. So what if it's two oxygen atoms?
Well, then what's the difference of why name it something different?
Instead of just atom bomb?
Yeah, just like, we're gonna nuke them.
Or something?
Oh, well, that's like...
Well, maybe it was an oxygen bomb.
Godzilla feeds off radiation, so through the first movie, they'd like nuke him and he'd just get fucking stronger.
Holy shit.
So this couldn't have been like a radiation bomb.
Yeah, it couldn't have been a nuke.
In the first movie, they just kind of ramped it up and up and up until like Godzilla shoots like a fucking laser beam and kills the monster. And in this movie, they even ramped it up even more.
He grows turrets and shit? Or what?
They encounter him underwater, and they like see him like just a lot of miles away.
Okay.
And he's just staring at him, and his fucking like spikes on the top of his
start to
like
glow?
spine and shit like that. It like moves down like a cyberpunk machine. It's like,
Oh, okay.
and
And he starts to swim?
yeah, he starts to swim towards them, and then for some reason he just fucks off, and then like halfway through the movie he does his laser beam, and then after they oxygenate him,
Give him a better supply of oxygen.
he wakes up after a second, and they try to follow him, and he goes into like a wormhole or something like that, and they follow him, and they emerge at Atlantis.
Are you serious?
So he swims through like the streets, or they send like a tunnel, or they send like drones in after him. And at a certain point, there's so much radiation that we can't go any further. Da 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 da. But they can like see him like lying down, He's like, he's healing off the radiation.
It's so stupid.
So they're like, well, that could take hundreds of years. I know what we need to do. Let's nuke him.
Okay. So
And then they go, oh no, the nuke can't be remotely detonated. So the guy, or the Japanese man who's been the fucking preacher for Godzilla the whole 2 movies,
he's like, I'll do it.
I'll do it. He's like, you realize this is a one-way trip, man?
It's such a cheesy movie.
And he gets in a thing and he drives over and he sets the nuke down and he turns it on. He takes off his helmet, he takes off his gloves, he stares at Godzilla, and Godzilla opens his eyes. Or opens his eye and looks at him. And then, like, they show, like, the explosion Atlantis kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Godzilla gets up and goes and fights the 3-headed dragon. And, the next scene is them in, like, some other town. Oh, yeah, they went to, like, a Mexican city with a volcano in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. And they evacuated all the people. And, this, like, pterodactyl, like, lava creature bursts out of the mountain. I'll go into that later. But they keep going until, like, they're like, we gave Godzilla too much radiation. He's gonna explode in 5 minutes. We gotta get everyone away from it. And, the movie keeps going, and the little girl goes and, like, turns on the MacGuffin. I think that's what they're called. It's basically just like a whale call that they mixed with monster and human voices, and that calms them.
Okay.
So the dragon goes to that. He runs around and fucks everything up. Godzilla comes. Mothra comes. And then they kill Mothra. And then Godzilla, like, is on the ground and he gets up. And he fucking... This is the point where they're like, reached the new level for Godzilla. Okay. And he's walking down the street and you can see buildings, like, melting into, like, molten lava.
Around him?
Yeah.
Okay. He's like Super Godzilla or something?
Yeah, he's just like this horrible, or this crazy DD level, like, melting shit kind of.
Yeah.
And he walks over and goes and kills the dragon. I forget why I got on this tangent, but...
No, you were just talking about it.
Oh yeah, like, that story was just absolutely nonsensical.
Yeah.
But I liked it because it was just fucking big monster fighting.
Yeah.
And that
coffee beans.
Huh? Oh, Jimmy was throwing up after an edible, and this was on 420. You remember me talking about that?
Is it full?
No.
Oh.
When we were going back,